Feeling stuck or facing career obstacles? Wondering how to stay ahead in the ever-changing tech world? Welcome to PhD Women on IT Hack the Future. My name is Beata Young, and today's PhD Positivity Hack delivered will be by our guest Linda Lawton. Topic: Tales of Dyslectic Coder. Episode 159 starts here. Let me remind you, this is a grassroots community that focuses on women on IT, an inclusive forum of women in technology, startups, and female leaders who are supported by men as well. And I bring heart to that hustle because empathy is my mojo, and empathy is critical when you are a dyslectic coder. First, let me mention a couple of things that's been happening the past couple of days. Congratulations to the 2024 Nobel Prize winners. Let's also recognize the countless women in science whose contributions often go unseen due to gender bias. Their brilliance deserves celebration, and we support all the trailblazers awaiting for the recognition they've earned. Kudos to you, ladies. Cheers to Moko Fukanaga, CEO of Cosmo Bloom Incorporation, on winning the most disruptive award powered by Amazon at Women in Tech Global. Your radical innovations in tech are truly inspiring and drive positive change in the industry. And finally, hooray to today's PhD guest, Linda Lawton, for her recent achievement in starting a new position as lead software developer at KMD. We are excited to hear more about that, Linda, in the future. But in the meantime, let's focus on the tales of dyslectic coder. Join us for a game-changing conversation with Linda Lawton, a seasoned developer who mastered AI, machine learning, and web development while overcoming dyslexia and thriving as a single mom. Learn how to embrace change, beat imposter syndrome, and build confidence no matter the challenges you face. Whether you're new to technology or a seasoned pro, Linda's story will spark the motivation you need to grow and succeed. And this is going to be an honest and truthful conversation. So, Linda, let's start. Where are you joining us from?
I'm currently based in Aalborg in northern Denmark. It's about a 45-minute flight from Copenhagen.
Fantastic location. I'm also in Europe at the moment, joining from Granada, beautiful city at the south of Spain. So, Linda, thank you for joining us. Your journey from commercial software development to becoming a Google API enthusiast is truly inspiring. You started as a freelancer, so tell us, how did you embark on that journey?
Well, as a freelancer or working with AI.
Let's start with as a freelancer, because I think your story is quite inspirational. Because every time I'm meeting with ladies who want to enter the tech field, they are struggling with the usual bias of I can't get the job because I have no experience, and I can't get experience because I have no job. So I'm wondering, what was your story?
Well, I actually I got my first programming job probably back in 1995. So I have been working for a software developer for a number of years. Um, in 2019, I was moving from one position to another, and I was applying for jobs. And like everybody, when you apply for jobs, you get a lot of no's and you get a lot of non-answers. So I had been looking for a while, and it just so happened that somebody I knew forward me over to his friend who owned a company that hired developers and basically um, they moved me over to, or sold me, or sold my abilities over to other companies. So I wasn't really freelance per se, but I was working as a freelancer. So I was working for this company, yet I didn't do any coding for them. I was coding, they sold me off to another company to do work for that one. So that was my first experience as a freelancer, because you're going to another company to work with them and you don't actually work for them, you work for somebody else. And it was a big reality check for me, because being a freelancer implies that you, one, know that what you're doing, and you don't really have anybody to depend on, because as a non-employee, they expect you to know all the answers. So you can't really make friends with your coworkers, which is kind of strange. That, and due to COVID, I was working remote to Copenhagen. I was originally supposed to be going to Copenhagen once a month, but when COVID hit, the planes pretty much shut down. So I was literally working from home, which was fine. And I kind of enjoyed it. I actually enjoyed it more than I thought I would. And when I finally stopped working for them, I actually spoke with my husband and we discussed whether or not I could actually start you need to have a tax number and actually be freelance rather than looking for a new full-time job. And that's how I found my first actual freelance position, where I was my own boss and I have my own tax number, my own company. And it was, I guess I like to say I fell into it, if that makes any sense.
It does. It does. And you enjoyed it so much until recently when you embarked on this new corporation. I know that you don't want to talk about it because it's so fresh. However, Linda, I we talked before today's live stream because one of the things that I like to do is really making a connection. And the very first meeting we had, it was in June in Berlin during Google I/O,
Mhm.
and I really liked the fact that you were, speaking very matter of factly and not talking about, the all the diversity issues and so on. You were just speaking the words of truth, and also about how bias can affect women. But on the other hand, you just focus on the living work. No, you were not so much impacted but by what you heard. So let's delve into that, because I think there is a lingering topic here, and I'm trying to be as fast, I'm trying to get into the point as fast as possible. However, the fact that we have today the tales of dyslectic coder has a deeper meaning here, because you were defined as you have dyslexia. You will not be successful in the future. Tell us about that.
The thing is when I was in school, I was born and raised in the United States. I moved to Denmark about 25 years ago. So in the United States, when you're in schools and they notice that you're having a problem, they start sending you. I don't think they sent me for tests. I don't feel as though, I don't remember them sending me for tests. But all of a sudden, somebody said, "You're dyslexic." And this was in third grade. And I guess the reason they decided I was dyslexic is because somehow or another I ended up in third grade and I could barely read. What happened in second grade, nobody ever knew. Um, so basically, I was having issues with reading. I don't remember ever having issues with any other classes. It was just reading. So they declared that I was dyslexic and they put me in the special education classes. And nobody ever reevaluated me. I was in special education classes my entire way through school, and they put me in the lowest classes that they could. And it wasn't until high school, um, but I'm getting ahead of myself because one of the things that I actually remember was I was in fifth grade, and one of the girls in my class was reading a book called Aesop's Fables. Um, and I remember going to the library and trying to check the book out. But my library card had me labeled as special education. So the librarian refused to give it to me because it would be too hard for me. And that was my first experience as being discriminated against because I had a label attached to me. Fast forward a number of years, and I'm in high school now. And I remembered that, now remember, I love math. And I was really sick of getting the same easy classes all the time. And I heard that in junior high school, we would get algebra. And I couldn't wait to have algebra. So when the first day of junior high school runs around and I see this paper they hand me and I don't have algebra, I've got easy math again. And I was like, I was so mad that I went to I went to the secretary in the school. I went to the office. I went to bounced around to so many different systems in the school until finally I ended up going to the principal and says, "This isn't fair. I was supposed to get algebra this year." And he's like, "Oh, but you can't do it. You'll fail." And I was like, "Look, you give me one semester. You give me one semester in the US is like 3 months. If I fail, fine, I won't say a word. You can move me out." And he agreed. He says, "Okay, fine." And I said, and after that, and I says, another thing, I'm not going to those special education classes anymore because I was so sick of them. They were so boring. It was useless. It was a waste of time. And he's like, "Okay, fine." A bonus is that I got out of gym class. He says, if you take algebra, you won't have gym anymore. Not a problem. We can deal with this. I hated gym. So basically, they left me alone after that because I got straight A's. I was actually the reason why they weren't allowed to grade on a curve in that class because my grades were so high.
So you've done pretty successfully just by challenging the status quo of being coined, right?
Yeah.
No, you
Yeah.
disagree?
Oh, I do that all the time. I do. Yeah, you can't tell me no. This. I'm sorry. You know,
Uh-huh.
if I don't agree with you, you're gonna hear from me.
That's great because my strategy was actually I was going through a Polish system which was also very rigid, and because we were deeply rooted still in the communist belief of you have to wear white and black, not the other way around. And I wore something the other way around, and I was like comment, "Oh, you always have to be difficult, you always have to be different than everybody else." So it was not easy, to really feel like you always have to be the different one, the odd one, and really having somebody who believes in you was my North Star, because all of a sudden, I had this Polish literature teacher who believed in me because I was just good at reading, and I loved, I was a bookworm, so she really pushed me forward, and I started believing in myself. So was it inside of you, this power, or was there somebody who supported you along the way?
No, I was stubborn.
Mm.
I was just stubborn, and I don't like to be told no, that you can't do that. So you don't tell me that something can't be done because I will do it.
Mm. So, Linda, we also talked about motherhood, and I guess your mom was inadvertently your role model in terms of her career, because you mentioned the fact how you entered the technology field, and that's a very vulnerable story, and that includes some harassment. And maybe you could tell us how you entered the technology field.
This I've never actually told anyone this story except for you. My husband knows, my daughter knows. Not many people have ever asked me the truth of why I went into programming. Um, when I was 19, I was actually a very bad teenager, and I burned a lot of bridges, and I did a lot of things that I regret, and we all do. But the thing is you have to learn from them, and I think I've learned from mine. Um, I met a man who was about 8 years older than me when I was 19, and I quickly moved in with him. But I was also raised very sheltered. I was raised Catholic, and I was very sheltered, and I did not understand a lot of things. And because I burned so many bridges with my family, I didn't really have anybody to talk to. So when physical abuse came into this relationship, not only didn't I know what to do, I didn't know it was wrong, and I didn't see that it was really an issue. Or, well, I guess I did, but I didn't think I had a choice in the matter because I couldn't leave him, because at the time I was working at a gas station and I did not have a job that would have made enough money that I could afford an apartment on my own or a car on my own. I just wasn't making enough money, and I didn't see any way out. And after 3 years of letting him abuse me physically and mentally and emotionally probably as well, I finally decided that I needed to do something. And one day I saw a commercial on TV for computer programming courses at the local night school. And my mother was a computer programmer, and so was her husband, or my stepfather, her husband. And I knew that programming would be a good career. I mean, this was back in 1991, so I knew that computers were getting better, and I thought that I got to do something that's going to make more money, and programming is going to have to make more money than what I'm getting right now. So I kind of got up the courage to ask my father whether or not he would pay for me to go to university, and he agreed. And I was shocked because I had burned so many bridges with him that I never thought he would. So programming saved my life, really, because I think he would have killed me, because at some point, and I think it was about 2 years after I graduated from university, or maybe a year after I graduated from university, that he finally left. And he left because it was a very bad time, and I basically told him, I said, why don't you just get it over with and kill me? Because I didn't see any other way out, and he finally left. And that was it. And it was wonderful.
Mm. And but it's not the end of the story, because
No.
you were so terrified, Linda, and I'm speaking from for all the victims here, because
Yeah.
we know that there are many victims that do not have the courage, and they are not as stubborn as you are. So tell us about that, because there is this moment of realization of the fear is really in your head. It's not really that big once you look it into
I think he left in 1996 or
Mhm.
97. It was around there. And I moved to Denmark in 1998. And I have had a fear for years and years and years that he was going to get on a plane and he was going to fly to Denmark and he was going to find me. What I haven't told you is that I had a child with him. So I basically took my child and we came to Denmark to keep her safe from him. And I still, for years and years and years, I have been so paranoid and this fear in the back of my head that he was going to come and find me and he was going to kill me. Um, but what's funny is that 2 years ago, my daughter and I went to the United States, and he had found her on Facebook years ago. And I told her, I says, this is your this is your chance if you really want to meet him. And I mean, he is her biological father. She doesn't know him because he left when she was 2, and she's 30. So I mean, this is your chance to meet him. So we went to a restaurant. Had my husband with me because I was still terrified. I had my husband with me, and my husband and I sat on a table, and Jessica sat with him, and they had a nice chat and left. But the funny thing is that I took a look at him, and karma's amazing. Karma's absolutely amazing. He looks terrible. I don't think I need to worry about him coming to get me because he doesn't, for one, he doesn't have any money. He didn't even have a car. He took a bus to meet us. He couldn't pay for her breakfast. I ended up paying for it. Um, oh yeah, and he has no teeth.
Well, well, isn't it amazing that you saved your life, you saved your child's life, and we have a lovely comment from Patrick. In Patrick's opinion, wow, programming saved my life. That is an incredible statement and a truly amazing story. This is ghastly and good for you, Linda, as this is more than just being stubborn. That was brave. And I want to say, from my personal story, it's really brave to go out of this situation, because I tried to save somebody a couple of years back, and I failed the first time, but the second time I was so happy that this lady left the this toxic relationship, this toxic marriage, even though she is living now without her child, because this was the only way she could save her. I keep telling her that's okay, that's better to have some sanity for yourself first before you can actually look after your child. However, we know that being a single parent in the world of technology is not an easy trait. So, Linda, tell us how you ended up, as a single mother, working in a new field, and what was it like as an experience?
Working in the United States as a single mom was a nightmare. Um, my daughter was 2 or 3 at the time, and I can remember she got an ear infection, and the daycare won't take them if they have a fever and they haven't been on antibiotics for 24 hours. Well, I didn't have any more time off at work. What am I supposed to do? I can't take her with me. I can't take her to work. So I had to stay home. I almost got fired. They actually brought me in for disciplinary action. But when I came to Denmark, it's completely different here. If your child is sick, you can stay home. A lot of parents can work from home nowadays. And in the United States, I didn't get any extra money or anything, but in Denmark, I got help with paying for daycare. In the US, my daycare cost half what I was making every week was going to daycare. In Denmark, it was almost nothing that I was paying for daycare because I was a single mom. And then at one point, I was even getting help to pay for my apartment. So Denmark absolutely wonderful how much help I got as a single parent. The schooling was a little more difficult because I married a Danish man and he wasn't interested in helping to take care of Jessica. So even though I was married, I still considered myself a single mom because he didn't help with her at all. So dealing with the school system when I didn't speak the language, that was very difficult. Moving a country with a small child and being kind of alone was definitely not easy. But Jessica and I, we did it. It was her and I against the world, and we managed it.
Mm. Because you knew that there was this north star that was leading you, and you are going to provide a better future. Were you thinking that living in Denmark saved you from going back to the toxic relationship, or was it just a choice of I want to explore Europe as a location for my future?
When I was in fifth grade in school, we had an amazing history teacher, which is really weird for me to say because I hate history. I don't do I just can't remember it. I'm a math person, but I had this amazing history teacher and I can still remember him to this day. And he started telling us about Europe and what it was like there and that people have been there for thousands of years. And my dream in fifth grade was to live in Europe. So I had the opportunity to move to Europe. I jumped on it. I love it here.
Mm.
It's amazing here.
So now you're living a dream of many Americans who are thinking about moving to Europe, whereas many Europeans are thinking about moving to US.
I
What
doubt
would
it.
Well, I've got to tell you that my daughter is thinking about that, and it's always this American dream, and also looking at the economy, how it is growing faster, and also in terms of salaries, I think it's a slightly better salaries that you can receive in the US. Maybe in technology, it's much the same, is
Yeah, but I
it?
think the cost of living is higher.
Mm.
And the fact that you do not have the work-life balance that you get in Europe. You
Mm-hmm.
are, as a programmer in Europe, well, at least back when I was there, you are almost expected to work overtime. And because I was a single mom and I could only work 40 hours a week, I often got spoken to because I was not able to put in the 60 or 80-hour work week.
Mm. Well, let's go into technology. So, how did you transition, I'm wondering, from traditional software development to the world of machine learning and AI?
Well, I mean, technically, as a in my work day, I am a .NET developer. I still programming is my life, and I code. How I ended up starting on AI is actually a little fun. One of my fellow GDEs, he mentioned that they were doing some testing on the new Bard system that Google was coming out with. And they were looking for more people to test it. Now, I'd never worked with AI before, and AI almost always requires that you know Python, and I didn't know Python. Again, I'm a C#.NET developer. So, and he's like, come on, you can do this. So I was like, okay, fine. And at the time it was summer and I didn't have any freelance contracts going on right now. And I get bored. I cannot just sit in front of YouTube all day. So I've got to code something. So I might as well code, I might as well play around with this machine learning stuff. So that's basically how it happened. I managed to get into the NDA invite on Bard stuff. And I've just been playing with Google's AI stuff since. I mean, I still have access to a lot of their NDA stuff. Most of the stuff that comes out, I've probably had access to at least a month before anybody else gets it. And I get to break it before you do.
And it's been a very interesting journey because you have been even invited by Google. Tell us about that because I think you had to be convinced by your husband to take that trip.
Yeah, that's actually a lot. It's like when it rains it pours. Um, last the end of March last year was actually a very difficult time for us. My mother-in-law passed away from a combination of COPD and COVID. Um, it wasn't sudden because she'd been sick for a long time, but for me it was sudden because I expected her to live forever. But anyways, 3 days after she passed away, I got an invite from Google to join a. They wanted to have a meeting with me, which is not uncommon. Random Googlers will invite me to a meeting to ask me about different stuff all the time. Yes, it sounds strange, but yes, it does happen. And I don't get paid for this either. But anyways, but normally when they do these invites, they're like, can we talk next week or something? But this was like half an hour, and I was like, well, that's sudden. I was like, we literally just got home, and I was like, okay, I don't have anything better to do. So I turned on my PC, and they just started talking to me, and I didn't know these guys, but that's not uncommon for me. I'm really bad with faces and names and stuff. So yeah, so they just tell us about what you've been doing with AI. So we did what kind of like what we're doing here. This is unscripted Linda. This is how I am. When you want to talk about tech, well, let's talk about tech. And I've done this and I've done that. And we talked a good half an hour, and they're like, so we're filming something for Google I/O, and we'd like to have you out to California to film a spot for Google I/O. And I'm like, what? And it's like, I'm in Denmark. You don't want to fly me all the way to California. He's like, I was like, well, there's a Google headquarters here in Aarhus. It's an hour. We could do it there. And they're like, oh no, we've got all the film sets and everything. We need to do it here in Mountain View. We want to fly you out to Mountain View. And I'm like, from Denmark? He said, why don't you talk to my friend Alan, the guy that got me invited to? He's in New York. You're much better. No, we want you. I tried to convince them that they didn't want me. I'm insane. This is imposter syndrome at its best, right?
Mm.
And they're like, oh no, we want to fly you out to Mountain View and then next week. And I'm like, my mother-in-law just died. You want to fly me out there next week? I mean, talk about giving me notice. You're going to fly me all the way to California. And I'm like, and it just still didn't register with me. And I was like, can I think about it? Can I think about it? And they're like, yeah, sure, get back to us. So I got off the thing, and I'm talking to my husband, and it's like they want to film me for something for I/O. They didn't really even tell me, and here I am denying the fact that it's going to be the intro on the big screen. No, they're not going to do that. It'll probably be some short or something they'll put on YouTube, right? It's not going to be the intro. They wouldn't film me. I'm this weird woman in northern Denmark. And my husband's like, you'd be stupid not to do it. It'll look great on your CV. All right, fine. And I was like, okay, but I'm going to insist on I'm going to insist on business class because I want to be able to sleep on the plane. Right? So it's like I might as well try, right? Try. I didn't think that they'd pay for it, right? And then I sent him an email. Says, yeah, but can we do business class? And they're like, yeah, sure, no problem.
Mm.
And not only that, but they sent a limo to pick me up at the airport. So they
That's the
literally,
way.
yeah,
That's the way to do it.
and it was only 3 days. I left for Denmark on a Thursday, and I was home on Sunday.
That's fabulous. That's the way to live your life. And especially if you have a supporting husband who is telling you just do it, that's the way to do it. So well done, Linda. And you were on the big screen, weren't you?
Yeah, a whole 15 seconds. That was my 15 seconds of fame.
Fabulous. And you enjoyed that drink on your business class.
Oh yeah,
Life.
they have champagne.
I know. Well, who did you fly with?
It was KLM.
Fantastic,
Yeah, it
I'm
was really
sure.
nice. It was a nice trip, and I was able to sleep on the plane, so it was great.
Excellent. That's really worth a lot. Even if
Yeah.
they didn't pay you for appearing, it's a good time to also network. So tell us about networking because you mentioned that you're introvert, and
Oh,
you know you.
terrible.
Go on, Linda. How do you network?
I mean, I don't think I network. I don't. I really don't. I worked from home. Literally saw nobody for 4 years. I guess the way I network is by social media. I mean, my questions on Stack Overflow, um, my YouTube videos, people find me, and I have no idea how. And I guess the fun thing is when Google actually sends me to a conference. I mean, they sent me to IO Berlin, and I will be going to an exclusive machine learning GDE conference in Hungary in November. So Google decides to send me to these conferences, and then I go, and all these people come up to me, and they're like, "Hey, it's Linda. How you doing?" And it's like I have no idea who they are, and I try. It's like, and I still have. I don't believe this is me. How is this my life? How do people know who I am? I just do stuff because it's fun.
Mm,
You know, I'm just me. That's how I network. I don't network.
hmm. So you do not network. But how did Google find you? Were you part of the GDE or
Google found me. I originally became a GDE back in 2014. I am actually the longest standing female GDE in Europe right now, because I've been a GDE for 10 years. Originally, they found me because I was working for a company and I needed to access the Google Analytics API to add it to an application. And I sent in a feature request to the Google Analytics team asking if they could add an API that would let me list all of the metadata. And I think about 2 or 3 weeks later, I got an email from somebody with @google.com. And I was like, what? A Googler is emailing me. And this is complete. This is the first time any of this had happened. And I was like, no way. And I'm checking the headers on the email. Oh no, it's from Google. Okay, fine. And he's like, we'd like to invite you to beta test it because we're actually working on that. And I was like, oh, cool. That sounds like fun. So that's how I started beta testing stuff for the Google Analytics team. And I think about 6 months later, they asked if I wanted to be a GDE for Google Analytics. And I was a GDE for Google Analytics until they shut that one down probably about a year ago or so, I think.
Mhm.
And the thing is it's gone beyond that now, because I know a lot about all of the Google APIs, and I've been helping to support a number of the client libraries. So I've got a lot of samples for Google APIs with C# and PHP, Python, even a bit of Node.js and maybe some Java floating around. So I answer a lot of questions and help a lot of people. And I guess Google just kind of knows that.
Mm. So you're very hands-on and very engaged in the community. Now I'm wondering because you mentioned imposter syndrome, and I think you're still kind of embracing your imposter syndrome,
Oh, yeah.
or is there a way that you're dealing with it?
Oh, no, I am the queen of imposter syndrome. I am the queen, and I'm going to get a T-shirt made one of these days. Queen imposter. I know nothing. I don't understand why you would hire me. I mean, like I just started a new job, and I still find it hard to believe that anybody would put lead software developer in front of Linda's name because it doesn't make any sense to me at all.
Mm. Are you ever trying to change that title?
What, as lead
No, as
as
a
queen, as
queen.
oh
Queen.
no, I'm gonna own that. I'm gonna own that for the rest of my life. No, that's mine. I am the
That's,
queen of imposter syndrome because it keeps you humble.
mm,
It keeps you humble because if you start saying that, I mean, everybody has worked with this one person in their network or in their on their team that seems to know everything, and everybody is sitting in the back saying,
mm,
yeah, but he didn't know X, or he didn't do Y, or he forgot something, but this person, I know everything. And everybody's worked with somebody like that sometime in their career. You need to stay humble because you don't know everything, because everything changes. I will never be an expert at C sharp. I've been using C sharp for 12 years, but I think the only person that could be an expert at C sharp are the people that are actually writing the language right now. I'm always finding something new. I found something new today.
mm. You found something new today. However, you're happy with what you're doing. But I'm wondering what would be the message to those women who are quite unhappy being still developers? They would want to become leaders or managers of a software developer team.
Now, I guess one of the main things that I want everybody to get out of this is the fact that your career is not a sprint, it is a marathon. Look at me, I've been doing this for 30 years. A lot of people now, they're young, you're just starting out. You are not going to be, if you're lucky, you're not going to be in the same job. Well, I guess maybe you could be lucky if that's what you want, in the same job now in 30 years because technology changes, things change, you change, your life changes, your circumstance change. Don't be afraid to move to something else. I started off as a working with Oracle as a database expert, and then I went to web programming, and then I went to Windows desktop application programming, and then I went to C sharp, and now I'm doing mostly what I'm doing right now is backends with microservices, and now I've been playing with machine learning. Do what makes you happy. Do what inspires you. If you want to be a lead software developer, by all means. If you want to be management, by all means. I just talk better to computers than I do to people a lot of times, and a lot of people don't really get me sometimes. So I just don't think that I would be a very good manager.
That's great, and I think you mentioned that you always been humble, and I'm wondering whether you're not mixing being humble with being truthful, because I believe that you've been very truthful in knowing what you don't know, rather than
Yeah.
boasting that, oh, I know everything.
That goes back to when I mentioned the fact that I was a very bad teenager. Um, my mother left when I was about 12 years old. She left one day and she didn't look back. She came back to visit, of course, but we lived with my dad. So I was raised by a single father. And I don't think he was prepared for that. And I was terrible to him, and I lied a lot, and I burned so many bridges that at some point in my early 20s, I realized that lying doesn't get you anywhere, and being truthful and being honest does. Nobody wants to be friends with somebody that is lying all the time. So I would rather be truthful and come clean. Um, Actually, sometimes I'm a little too truthful, but that's just me.
Mhm. So, Linda, we talked also about the fact that not having a mother figure was quite challenging because you had to learn, the feminine traits from
Yeah.
your grandmother, and then, becoming a mother was somewhat challenging because you did not really have that role model in your life on a daily basis. So, what is the lesson to those children, those who do not have mother figure and do not maybe know how to embrace femininity or show love? Is there a Linda's advice, queen of motherhood advice?
I think that if you are a young girl right now, or if you were a young girl who was raised without a mother figure in your life, and you have questions, because you do have questions, and you are scared. I was scared. I had no idea how to deal with that time of the month, and I made a lot of, and I didn't have anybody. I didn't feel I had anybody. Believe it or not, we as women are we are our own army. We are a collaboration of other women. I believe that if teenage Linda had walked over across the street to this lovely lady that lived across the old lady that lived across the street and had asked her to explain things to me, she would have. But I was too embarrassed. I mean, I was like 13. I was too embarrassed. My own mother left me. I mean, why would a stranger that's not part of the family be willing to explain these things to me and to help me understand? There's somebody in your life who will help you as a young girl.
Mm,
You just have to find her. You just have to open your mouth and ask.
mm. Well, and also be open to being vulnerable because there is a lot of vulnerability, and I really appreciate you, Linda, sharing your honest story without sugarcoating it, because life seems to be to Gen Z, and
Mm-hmm.
it seems to be so difficult and so complex. And of course, it is. It isn't
Oh, yeah.
easy, growing up with constant notifications, alerts, and, information overload. However, the humanity wins, and we talked about it many times during our Positivity Hack Delivered. For example, with episode about AI and how humanity is going to be definitely this element that AI will never take away from us. So, asking questions would be the number one advice. What else would be your advice to those women who want to enter technology field, and even if they don't have father who is going to sponsor their education, what would be other advice that you could give them?
Well, nowadays you're lucky. You don't need to go to university to become a programmer or to get involved in IT. Everything's on the internet. I mean, I learned Python from an AI. Basically, I didn't read the Python documentation or anything like that. Granted, I know several languages already, so I was a little bit head start. But nowadays, you can learn from programming directly just from YouTube. If you're interested and you want to try, do it. Just pick it up. It finds, even if you know somebody like me, for example, that would be willing to mentor you and answer questions, go on Stack Overflow, ask questions. Nobody's going to fight you for asking, and you can do it because it's easily done.
Beautiful. Stack Overflow or Ask Questions, Reddit. There's lots of forums and
Exactly.
support groups. Woman Tech Makers is one of them, and
Yep.
that's how we met.
Yep.
And now, tech industry is constantly evolving. How does Linda stay up to date with latest trends and technologies?
Well, I think the biggest problem Linda has is that she is curious about everything. I just don't have time. As soon as I see something new online about somebody that did something, I've got to try it because it sounds like fun. I mean, even playing with, training my own Gemma models, that is so far above my knowledge base. But I did it, and I don't understand how I did it, but I did it. and I need to find time to spend more time doing it. But I mean, you can do whatever you want. I mean, it's the same in life. If there's something that interests you, just give it a try. I mean, for crying out loud, 2 months ago, I bought myself a guitar just because I've always wanted to learn how to play the guitar. I can't play the guitar, but I'm having fun trying to try.
That's how you break the code.
Exactly. If you want to try, if you want to learn something, I mean, I spent 4 months trying to learn how to solve a Rubik's Cube because all of a sudden I decided I wanted to try and solve a Rubik's Cube. And I can solve them.
That's beautiful because also it's something challenging for the brain. Now, what is the number one book you can sit and think, oh, I wish I read it before I started my career?
Oh, what was it called? I sent it to you. It was the Phoenix
Project.
Yes, the
Project.
Phoenix Project. That book is absolutely amazing. I really wish that I had read it early, and I should read it again because it's that good. It basically just explains how companies should be organized, and they're not. And it's just absolutely amazing. I loved it.
Mm. Well, let's imagine that you could meet anyone in the world and have private breakfast anywhere in the world. Who would you meet and where would you go to?
Did you read my answer to this when I sent it to you?
Yeah, I did indeed. But I want to hear it from you, Linda.
I have decided that actually I knew the answer to that question as soon as you asked me. I would like to have breakfast with Jean-Luc Picard, captain of the Starship Enterprise. I have not decided which version of him, though. The younger version when he first gets into Generations, or the older version when he's in the Picard series. I actually think I'd like some time in the middle because I'd like to discuss with him all of the things that he has discovered. Now, where we're going to meet, I am not entirely sure. I'm almost inclined to do it in 10 Forward, basically because I'm hoping we might get Guinan in on it. And or we could do it at Chateau Picard, mainly because I'd like a glass of wine. But you said breakfast, so I'm not exactly sure we can have a glass of wine with breakfast, but it is France, so I don't know. Maybe.
It's breakfast somewhere in the world.
Yes. I guess the reason behind that is that I was actually 7 years old when my father broke to me the fact that I could not become captain of the Enterprise. And I was devastated for a long time.
And now we can see many captains of many ships and women going into the space and you breaking the code and being invited on the business class. Maybe next time, Linda, you should ask for a private jet.
And my husband wanted to come with me.
Oh, there you go. You should ask for, your
I need moral support.
Company. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I need moral support.
Absolutely.
I could take Snickers as my security pet or something on the plane. I don't know.
Yeah, Snickers is your parrot. Let's explain to our viewers that Snickers is a parrot, not like feeling a star, have a Snickers moment.
No. Snickers is my coworker. He's my little parrot, and
who's very upset because you locked him in the other room. And
yes, I locked him in with Dad. And it's his bedtime, which means and Mom is not there to put him to bed. So he was very annoyed when we first started this live stream. I think he's gone to bed because I haven't heard him in a while.
Okay, so let's wrap it up. And can you give us your life lesson quote and how did it change you?
Did I have a life lesson when you asked me? I think I had one. No, yes. I can't remember. I can't remember what I had said that my life lesson is.
So here is
yeah.
I'm gonna help.
Yeah, it was be kind. I can live with that. Yeah, be kind and listen to the people around you. That's it.
It doesn't hurt to ask. So why is this lesson life lesson quote for you? Why is it working for you?
Life is too short to not be kind to each other. I see a lot of things on the internet these days and even on TV. And this people are very negative, and it's like you automatically assume that this person in front of you is going to attack you. And I don't think that's the case. We are all ingrained just to be kind to one another, and I don't understand why we've stopped doing that.
Mm. Mic drop moment again, ladies and gentlemen. This is Linda speaking from heart. Be kind, listen truly, listen to the people around you. That's again our basic human instinct. Open your heart to others, and you may have heart opened for you. Linda, we also like to quote Eleanor Roosevelt, who once said, "Women are like tea bags. You never know their true strength unless you put them in hot water." So, how are you brewing in hot water? How are you dealing with unkind people?
Well, so I guess that's the thing is I don't actually get that many unkind people. I really haven't in my life. I've been very lucky, and I think that's because of how I come across. Um, so I think I've been pretty lucky in that way. But how I am in hot water, I guess, depends upon the situation. And then if you ask my husband, I can get stressed sometimes depending upon what's going on. But most of the time, it's by change. If things change, or if he doesn't follow the existing plans that I put in place, then sometimes I can get a little bit annoyed. But
Mm. Well, I believe this is a lesson to those who are listening to us, which is a great quotation that Racy have found, although I do not believe it is by Ralph Waldo Emerson. I believe there is Muriel Straught by what I recall. Do not follow where the path may lead. Go instead where there is no path and leave a trail. And Linda is definitely one of the women who are leaving the trail, is breaking the code, breaking the system, and helping many others to make their own path into technology, into the world of humanity, human connection. Linda, it's been a real pleasure to chat to you today, and thank you once again for being honest and having this conversation. Muriel Straught, indeed. Thank you, Patrick, for bringing that quotation back to us. Now, next week, we are going to have J. Tucker Miller. And that's it from episode 159 of PhD live stream. I'm sorry, IPO. Vit was our commentator today and supporter as ever. Thank you, Patrick. And Linda, once again, thank you so much for sharing your insights, your experiences, and your humble and very truthful opinion on how you can make your career as a freelancer or dyslexic coder. And this is it. Thank you very much. As always, our positivity quote comes from positive thinking only and goes, if you don't like something, change it. If you can't change it, change your attitude, as Maya Angelou says. Today is your day to hug the future, hug the positivity you want. Thank you.